Herbie John, this has been I got to start off by saying this. You were one of the first guys that like really went out of their way to introduce yourselves to me and come over and just kind of like you'd hear the commentary and you'd be like, "You got a question about that?" and you'd explain it to me. And I really appreciate that. You are one of the great ambassadors of the sport of box lacrosse as far as I am concerned. So I just kind of wanted to start off by saying thank you very much for really going out of your way and explaining all that stuff to me and really you always take the time for me. I send you a text with a question, or you hear me on the commentary, and you're like, "No, that you were wrong there." And even to the point that the juniors, so I was laughing at that last juniors game. We'll talk about that later, but yeah, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us about the radio because that's what everybody tells me about. Is Herbie used to be our radio guy.
Yeah, uh, our nation here used to have a radio station called WGWE, and for short, we'd say "Gwe," the Gwe. Like slang here on the res is like we'd say, "Oh, Gwe," like kind of surprising. So that was kind of cool how the radio station came about. But I don't know, just I don't know, a buddy of mine one day and asked me if I wanted to do a show, same thing like this. Wanted to do a show. Started off with a Saturday morning show on live radio, and then we moved on to a high school lacrosse game, and I just happened to get into it, and knowing the players was very helpful. Was the first, I was like, got right into it, made it easy,
It's one of the
and
biggest reasons I ask you to help me all the time too, though, is because anytime you're available, like I went to give you a roster and you kind of laughed. You're like, yeah, I know everybody out there. It's like, okay.
yeah, we don't use those around here. But yeah, I mean, it was a nice little couple years worth. The radio station really didn't succeed, but I think got a couple. I did I remember I did about 7 games in one season, senior B Can-Am, and it was pretty good. I enjoyed it, and I guess that's that's where I got out there. I think that same year, I ended up going to Laxney and jumping on the mic with Stanford.
He's a so that is funny because that was one of my first introductions to really like organize. Let's do this with headsets and make it sound more professional with Stamper. So that was my first shout out too. But I absolutely I noticed you did a couple of play by plays. I threw you a headset and like you could tell it's not your first time wearing a headset going through it, and that's what everybody told me was the radio. But so ask Herb what his commentating nickname is. That's from Frank We Saw. What's the commentating nickname?
uh, it was Herbalicious,
Oh,
and I don't know. I don't even remember who. I really don't. I don't remember who came up with that. Maybe it was on the radio station. It was on their Facebook page or post. And then I don't know, just the radio personalities. They liked it. There was a couple guys in there, and I guess it just stuck.
just kind of stuck from there, and then that was yeah, I mean that's kind of how nicknames seem to go. That is one thing I wish that you guys on your rosters would at least just put your nicknames, because you guys put people's first names on there and last names, and I'm always like, wait, who is that? And then you'll tell me and I'm like, oh, all right, I know who that is.
Oh, you don't want me to fill out a game sheet then?
I tell you. So one of the big things that I really was talking about with the appreciation for the rule changes is me coming from NLL was my first introduction to box lacrosse, and then from the NLL I went to or NAMLA. So they still play 4 quarters, very similar rules to that. And then all of a sudden, Ron Kogan asked me to come out and do the Stickmakers tournament, and I saw my first 3 period game with no over and back, and what a fast pace for like I fell in love immediately. I saw that I was instantly like, oh my goodness, this is what I think that's what it's supposed to be. I just love it. I was as a hockey guy, I love the 320s with the 10-minute break in between. It gives you, I think you get the best performance out of your athletes. 2-minute break in between quarters. I don't know if that gives you I don't know. I'm a huge fan of it. So I mean the NAMLA we were talking, you said that started in 2004, but I mean let's talk before that. Each of these communities, basically everybody has all these towns have had just like small lacrosse programs. Like Onondaga used to travel to Canada. You guys all used to play up in the OLA until when did that stop? Was that the early 2000s?
Early 2000s. I remember 2003 was my first year of junior in Sarnia, Ontario. So I would have to say, like, I never played no midget. So, like, 2002, I want to say all our teams left the OLA due to insurance reasons. And I remember my last OLA game, it was Bantam. So I'm saying like 2000, 2001, 2002. It I guess it took a little while, but as you see, all these communities, Newtown, Tuscarora, Tonawanda, Onondaga, Allegheny, they all came together because they were all part of the OLA. In Onondaga, they actually used to be a powerhouse junior B team in the OLA at that time. And then we just they shipped us out because we were stateside, insurance reasons. The CLA didn't. I don't know
Yeah.
if it was the CLA or the OLA, but I guess whatever. So NAMLA was formed in 2004, and 20 years later, here we are. We're still growing. I mean, there was one point in time where I think numbers were at 900, and that's pretty good. That's really good for a small league, a small league that we have, community to community. And I think by now, I think we're pushing over 1,000 members. I'm not really sure. I know as
I would
far as
imagine.
Newtown, we have uh, 174 registered members. So I guess you take that times 6 or 7, however many associations we have, and just average it. I mean, like not every association has those high numbers, but I would say we're over 1,000 member mark right now in NAMLA, and which is good, which is okay.
I don't think
Because
I've
we
ever
got
been to
to
a NAMLA game and seen a bench where you only had like three guys waiting to come out. So I would say you got to be over 1,000 with, like you said, that. But that is the biggest thing that I notice is that, I mean, these little kids, they are used to that contact. They play real box lacrosse. They don't play this indoor lacrosse on an ice rink that most of our guys will play in the wintertime. I mean, but and if you watch it, I think this is honestly the biggest reason why the U.S. is so far behind such a small nation as the Haudenosaunee when it comes to box lacrosse, though, is the stick skills that are developed. I mean, you guys literally give your boys a wooden stick when they're born in the crib, and it's an extension of your body. It's not just something that like you just pick up as a tool. It's really an extension of your body.
Yeah, I mean, it's a natural living thing. That piece of wood is a natural living thing, just like us. You got to care for it. We got to care for our bodies, and we got to care for Mother Earth. It comes from Mother Earth, and it's just something we give thanks for. And yeah, it is. It is part of us. So that's why you see that. And everybody has their different teachings of why that stick is in the cradle at birth, but that's my teaching. And come November, I'm gonna be giving be giving my first wooden stick in a cradle board. I mean, I'm not going to give it, but I'm going to offer it to my son, and he's going to welcome in his son.
Yeah, I saw that. So that's kind of how Garen ended up in Onondaga, right? That's why he's now playing for the junior B team over there, as he now lives over that way.
Yeah,
Fell in
he
love with a girl
graduated.
like we all did at 21, and now he's in the same position we were all in when we were 19, 20 years old. So yeah.
Well, I don't know if he's watching, but I'm just going to throw this out there that I think they were high school. I think they were high school lovers, where he ended up going to OCC, and they were both there, and here we are, having gender reveals and
Yeah.
preparing for the baby.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and
he,
congratulations.
he moved on over there, and it's good to see him, and just another life. And we have family over there. I have a lot of distant family, and him, my kids, Garrett and them, they have actual immediate family over there. So it's almost it's full circle of who we are, and like we go territory to territory, and then we just find and share our ways. And yeah, this makes me proud of him. And yeah, going back to that lacrosse stick in the cradle, and it's just it's going to come to fruition here real soon, November.
Oh, absolutely. And that's one thing. So one of the biggest I don't want to get too far off topic here, but getting to learn the history of all of these territories, and really for me it was learning that the Haudenosaunee Confederacy is not, yes, it's one unit, but it's really more like how different Onondaga is from Allegheny, from Newtown. Like each community is so different. Tonawanda has a very different feel to it than it does when you're in downtown Salamanca, obviously. So I mean, I love it, and I love the diversity that's in the community. And also now I'm starting to learn the family names. So like you understand when you see a guy from here, well, yes, this is a different group, or yes, well now he has family there. And like you said, the way yes, it's one nation, but there's a lot of different intricacies within it. And really, there's certain communities that have embraced the lacrosse mentality. And I think when you actually look at that, though, you see how successful those communities are. Stu Sundown explained it to me, I think, best. He said, if we keep our kids playing this, he goes, we keep them off the streets. Some of us live by big cities. We're by Buffalo, we're by Syracuse, we're by these big cities. You want to keep your kids with this positive influence, and really credit to you and all the volunteers and all the people who make that happen.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's always been that way. And like I remember um just growing up myself, like Woody Seneca, and I got to put it out to him because he's big influence in
He's
you
the
guys
man.
bringing it to the NAMLA, bringing blue squash to NAMLA. But his father did the ultimate when we were kids. He would drive around the res and pick us up in that one van. There'd be 13 of us in one van, and it was. And I don't know if you see what Woody drives around now, but that replicates of how we grew up.
Yeah, I seen the
It's
little bus in the driveway all the time, and now that you say that story, I was immediately like, "Oh, okay, I see how he got that." But Woody also, so one thing I don't know, most people I would assume that are watching this know, but if you don't, Woody reached out and was like, "Hey, I want you to do the championship." At that point, we were mainly only doing the seniors. I was like, "It's going to be hard because we're covering it. We might miss," and unfortunately, we did miss the midgets game. So then, as soon as the season ended with Can-Am, he calls me and he says, "I'm reserving next year's NAMLA playoffs and championships." And I was like,
Yep.
"Wait, how many days?" He tells me how it breaks down, and he goes, "Here's the deposit. I've got it right." And I was like, "Well, yeah, absolutely." And so he made that priority one for Blue Squatch, obviously, because he told us, and getting to see the kids and getting to hear. We went to Six Nations, and there was, grandparents up there that got to watch grandkids because, like you said, it is a very transient community as far as the younger generation moves from nation to nation, depending on who they fall in love with and where they're working and all kinds of different things. So, yeah, for grandparents to be able to see it, that's always my favorite part when somebody's like, "Hey, my grandma got to watch me in Canada," or "Hey, it was three elderly women who stopped and they were like, 'Hey, thank you so much. When you filmed Tonawanda, we got to watch our grandsons, and we haven't
Yep.
gotten to see them play at all this year.'" So it was just so cool.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is, and for everybody to work together and make it happen, that's just we do it. Again, we do it. We're doing this all for the young generation because we're in this era now where we have that right in the palm of our hand. We can watch games in the palm of our hand, like when it's convenient or inconvenient, I guess. If you can't make it to the game or what, but also, again, like going back to Woody and his father back in the day picking us up, he just made opportunities. Like we went to Canada, we went to all the tournaments. Like I said, rolling 10 deep in one van was crazy. It was awesome. I loved it. And I remember one time even riding from Six Nations to Windsor in the back of a Chevy Z71 truck, and there was three guys in the cab and five of us in the back just laid off all the way from Six Nations to Windsor, at least a 3 4 hour ride. And that's just it. Like the elders, the coaches, the mentors, they made it happen for us. And I guess that's what we're doing now. Like what I see Woody doing and what I see other guys doing in the community, whatever community they're at, there's always somebody there pushing to keep these kids busy.
Yeah,
And
kudos to
that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing is keeping these kids busy. I mean, the phones are always there. Me personally, I'm not a big fan of it, but how are you gonna tell an 11-year-old kid you can't be on a phone? It's tough.
Well, it's like what he said. He goes, now when he sees his kids on the phone, a lot of times they're watching lacrosse, they're learning
Oh yeah,
lacrosse, they're talking lacrosse. So at least try to, much like so much of it, you're just trying to funnel the energy in the right direction so you kind of are making things better. That's all really all of us want is the next generation to have it a little bit better than we did, but to still have every opportunity that you had afforded to you and maybe some that you didn't. So no, like I said, so Cattaraugus. So I've had people come from Cattaraugus and near the Gillette, just like Tonawanda. these people come up to me and they're like, "How do we sponsor you to come?" I said, "Well, I got to talk to the team first to make sure they want me there." But we have had sponsors from Cattaraugus, the Gillet, all over your area, come up to us and tell us, "Hey, next year we want you to make sure you're there. What do we got to do to make sure we get a shout out as well?" So that is one thing. Is some of these communities, the sponsors are the first ones to reach out. Like Tonawanda, I had to reach out to the team and say, "Hey, you have sponsors trying to give me money. How can I get to your community to help make this happen?" And then I got to see Tonawanda, and boy, is that an experience, man. If you're coming from a place like me where box lacrosse wasn't even a thing, and now you're watching these guys and like get to see they've got the old section of wood outside with the fence to show you what it used to look like, what the rink used to be. It's special. I mean, because anybody, as you're an adult, you really learn how much goes into this. Like the elders in that community, Jan's, the Renee Smoke, like she literally came up to me with an envelope and was like, "Here, I want to sponsor." Just like the stuff that people are doing in these communities. That's why I love it, and I'm so grateful that you guys have invited me in. But the NAMLA really seems like it's all over the place with which teams are winning. You guys have talent. I mean, from the Tykes, we had overtime games in Pee Wees. I mean, does it get any more exciting than that?
No, not at all. I mean, it makes for a good day because we play our games. We start our games at 9, 10 in the morning, and go till 4, 5 in the afternoon. And you might catch a junior game or a senior game right after, and everybody's just so pumped up, and the fans are making a day of it. And no, man, I mean, it's. I think it's great. I think it's the best feeling in the world. Like Saturday, that place is going to be live. Tonawanda is going to be so live on Saturday. It's going to be cool.
Yes, and thank you so much for coming to do the commentary so I don't have to butcher anybody's name. I do try my hardest, but honestly, it's so hard too running everything and then trying to pick up the
Yeah.
names that, yeah, I struggle with it. But the nice thing is with certain teams, I get to cover them enough. So, like when I watch the Tonawanda men's team, I don't need a roster anymore. Like Onondaga's men's team, don't need a roster. Their junior team. And, yeah, no, I love what you guys are doing in Cattaraugus. Again, like I said, one of those communities where the sponsors came out to me first and they're like, "Hey, we want you to get here to watch the kids. We want you to be a part of it." And so I've gotten to meet you and so many other people through it. But why don't you give us a rundown of basically it starts at peanuts and goes through midgets because we've got people who have no idea when we're saying peanuts, tykes, novice. They're like, "What the heck does that mean?"
Right. Yeah. I mean, and even now, like nowadays, the terminology's even changed. Like we're the only ones that still use those
I knew every one
peanuts.
of them from hockey except for our tykes and peanuts were we went tykes, squirts, and then
Yeah.
it went on. But then we used the exact same terminology.
Yeah. Peanuts. Like okay, here peanuts for Newtown. We a lot of us start when we're 3 years old, and you probably heard that 1,000 times. And um, where the game is at now, I guess we're transitioning age levels now is where if you can play at 3 years old and you're out of diapers and you want to let your kid out there and give her for a little while, we have an in-house league now to where peanuts is just the other terminology would be soft lacrosse. So those are your just brand newest kids around. And then tights, that would be your what is that? U9. So you got to remember too, we go by birth year. So like when it says U9, that means you can't be 9 in that season.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's Tykes. Novice would be U11, so 9 and 10 year olds. Pee-wees are U13s, 11 and 12 year olds.
And that's where it
Uh,
really starts to get exciting as
yeah,
far as like the competition. So the little kids are fun and you do see a lot of great stuff. But once you hit Pee Wees, that's where you start to see all those years coming together and now they can pass and catch. And that's where
yeah,
for me, as somebody who grew up where you would watch more athletic people in a field lacrosse game do better, that's where you're going to start to wean out the kids who are just athletically talented and you start to get lacrosse players. Like who was paying attention growing up? Who knows what you're supposed to do versus who just ran down the field and said, "I can score because I'm faster than everybody."
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's all in the development and also, I guess, just the participation. Participation rate. At those younger ages, peanut, tyke, and novice, we're getting our numbers back. Some associations have heavy numbers, and they limit. I guess they would limit. how many registrations they would take. Here at Newtown, we know we have a strong base, and we know numbers are hit or miss. One year may be outrageous. One year we might just barely be making a cut. But we always open up for that second team. We can't deny kids playing, especially here in NAMLA. If we got enough for two teams, we gotta play two teams. And and I think it's just growing now. That peanut tyke and novice level, we're probably going to be running two teams here, not just Newtown. I see other associations very strong numbers, but again, it's just up to each community, each association to make that decision what if they want to run. I mean, I'll tell you, Newtown, we have a really strong foundation. We've always been strong, and we've always been able to provide, and we can't say no. You
You
can't say no to a kid that wants to play lacrosse. I don't care if you're 7 years old, um, 5 years old, peanut. I mean, you got to let them play. We got to sign them up. We got to make it happen is what I like to say. And that's what I always say to Woody, let's make it happen. Let's make it happen, and we do.
Yeah, Woody's
So
doing big things, but he actually told me so. Growing up, there used to be a few other teams over there. It wasn't just Newtown. There was a Pinewood team and some other stuff. But I did cut you off in the middle of the. We got to finish first. Bantams is what, U16?
Bantams are U15, so 13 and 14-year-olds. And again, that's where it gets,
Yeah,
that's where it gets exciting.
yeah,
Your 13 and 14-year-old kids. I mean, I guess if you know, that's a crazy generation right now.
yeah.
And then the midget level, which is U17, 15 and 16. Now, when you're 15 and 16, you're now a prospect. Everybody's watching you. You're coming out of ninth grade, 10th grade, high school. Now you're making decisions either in the field, on the field, or box across is where they're going to see you. So your game should be developed if you want to go somewhere, and you should be putting in that extra work, the gym time, and taking care of your body by then.
Where you start to see
And
the difference between the kids who are only working at practice and the kids who are working outside of practice too, because it's
absolutely,
it's the creativity. Nobody in practice is going to teach you to throw behind the back. Coach is teaching you the fundamentals. But you see how critical it is for some of these guys because you can draw a defender and throw it. So yeah, it's no, that the backyard fun style. You see it when the teams are in sync out there, the offense is really having fun. Everybody's laughing with each other. They know where each other is, and that's not something that just happens. I mean, that's at this point those kids have been playing together for 15 years, so when they hit midgets like you said, it's pretty much go time. So then juniors, some of these kids have been playing together for almost, 20 years at this point, really, because it's 21s where you age out. So if you started at 3, 19 years of playing together.
yeah. I mean, even right here in my front yard, I got three boys now that just constantly out there. It's a power left side. That's what I like to call it. It's a power lefty. And after Garen left, he was my only righty. But that's it. I watched the boys beat on each other bad out front, and then they get into the game time. Sometimes it's like, hey, how come you guys are playing so fierce with each other in the yard? But come game time, it took you two periods to get it together. I guess it's just a whole team thing versus your backyard. You don't know when that backyard play is going to come out in that game with these kids, which is crazy. Like you clip that one of Little Herb and of the dunk,
Yeah,
and I remember I was doing the score. I was in the score box that game, and I'm like, why are you doing that? And then my kids, they know the Lacrosse Canada rules. Like NAMLA, we run off Canadian guidelines, and in Lacrosse Canada, obviously, there's no diving, and Little Herb's response to me was, "Well, it's going to be on Blue Squad." Sure enough, you clipped it and you put it out there, and I don't know, these kids are just clipping it or sharing it and doing it all, and so I was like, "What if that was a crucial part of the game?" And I think it kind of was. I think that game went into overtime. I'm not sure. I can't
that
remember if
was
that was
the
that.
overtime game. That's why
Okay, so
Yeah, that's
I,
why I've
I,
stopped
I told
clipping
him.
the fights. Like I used to grab parts of them just because, but I just don't. I try not to draw attention to that. And now with the crease dive, next time I see a little guy, we can thank Little Herb. Their crease dives will no longer be posted. But no, that was I saw that, and I just with the camera angle and everything, I was like, boy, that is perfect. I hope he knew what he was doing. And he did.
Yeah.
Sounds like he did.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they do because they also these kids also play in junior bandits, junior nighthawks. They all go to the junior NLL or they play in the winter time in the U.S. Boxla. So all those rules apply. They're allowed to crease dive. It's entertainment. So what 12, 13-year-old kid isn't going to try it? What
Especially
7-year-old kid isn't going to try it? Those 7-year-olds want to throw themselves around and dive around and throw their backhands and
well,
yeah,
when you're
it's.
7, you bounce up a lot easier too. So I mean, they've all sat and like you said, you've got nets in your yard. They've sat there and practiced that dive or diving across the crease like, at that point hundreds, maybe thousands of times. And that is one of my favorite things. You drive through any of these nations and you can tell as soon as you hit the territory because every yard has a lacrosse net in it.
Yeah, yeah. A lacrosse net, a backboard, something for a rebounder. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, I love it. So we get through the NAMLA and basically the playoffs. So 1 through 4 gets to play. The first seed plays the fourth seed. 2 plays 3. So we've made our way through all of that, and now it's a championship. I do have to ask you though, what the single game elimination tournaments, is that just to get guys ready for round robins? Is it times? That is one thing I will say is NAMLA is the most efficient organization I've ever seen. Those games start every hour on the hour. I have to ask for a break real quick if I have to pee or run out for a smoke, but I'm like, oh my goodness, they literally fly these guys through. That running clock, that's no joke. You guys do a great job, moving it, and the games start on time.
yeah. You want to keep it convenient for everybody. And sometimes we play outdoors. You don't know if weather's coming in, or you don't know if it's 100 degrees in the arena either. So you want to keep things moving the best you can, and you know, and with that being said, there's possibly going to be some changes, regarding that, like format, style, and um, like you said, the single elimination playoff. It's unfortunate that one team doesn't make the playoffs, and that kind of takes me back to where everybody deserves to play in such a small league like NAMLA ourselves. It took me this long, I guess, to finally say everybody needs to deserve a chance. But I mean, what are you gonna do? NAMLA's been their format's been set in stone for 24 years, 20 years now. So we'll see what happens in the future, and maybe we might go to the round robin bracket style like Can-Am and FNLA does. So
Yeah,
get
that
them an
is
extra playoff game or something.
okay. So explain to me why all of these leagues are different and it's not just one organization. Is it because of the Lacrosse Canada insurance policy? Is why NAMLA and then juniors feel like it took me a while to figure out each one was a separate league, like independent of each other, but yet it's the same people that run. Like it's the same parents that are in. It's like every community. You have the same group of, your core group of people who volunteer and lead things and do like all these time-based things. But in I don't know, in the lacrosse world, it's 3 different organizations. It seems like you guys just add a lot of paperwork.
Well, yeah, yeah, for sure. That's you ain't lying there. So NAMLA's NAMLA, North American Minor Lacrosse Association. Um, that's it.
And it's
We're
just like
NAMLA.
its own
We
entity.
answer, yeah, we answer to ourselves, and NAMLA, the associations answer to the NAMLA executive board, which I'm also a part of. Um,
So if any
there's a
other organization, say like I started a youth team and I wanted to join NAMLA, my only
yeah,
restriction would be how far away I am just because of the inconvenience.
no, not at all. I wouldn't even say that, Greg. I mean, there would be no. I mean, I guess you're only if you're looking at a restriction. Like it would be how close you are to Onondaga, and you're well out of the radius.
Yeah.
And you show up in September with a proposal, and you have 3 teams, a minimum of 3 teams, and your bond and your check ready to go, and a little extra for uncle. And we probably accept you, because we're like I said, we're all about growing.
So do you guys offer your insurance policy to other teams, or do they have to
Yep,
play in your league? I'm saying, like, would you, if somebody wanted to start, this just popped up to me because, like, for us using U.S. lacrosse, if you've ever read the U.S. lacrosse policy on indoor, it leaves you liable for a lot of stuff. Whereas, like, your league is specifically designed for box lacrosse. That's
yep.
yeah, it's just something that kind of popped into my head with the insurance for the youth kids. I was like, oh, so you
Yeah,
guys do offer that?
Covers all your registered players, participants, members. Has their own policy, and each association. I mean, a couple of the associations may have their own insurance, but I mean, as long as NAMLA approves it, everybody's good to go. I mean, no biggie. Everybody's covered. Um, so now, like I said, NAMLA's NAMLA. Like I said, in 20 years ago, we left the OLA. The OLA is such a big lacrosse entity, and so now we've turned into the First Nations Lacrosse Association. Now that's where your juniors and your Can-Am Senior B and your Three Nations Senior Lacrosse League come in. Um, First Nations Lacrosse Association has two Senior B teams, Senior B leagues, um, a Junior B league, a minor nationals, which they're getting ready to go to Regina, Saskatchewan next week. Pee Wee Bantam and midgets. They don't have a full minor organization association. It's just a travel tournament national team. So they do have tryouts, or like this year, tryouts are quite limited. I don't know how they pick their teams, but either way, there's going to be three teams over in Regina um, representing. And there now when you get there, it's like you get NAMLA kids trying out for the First Nations Nationals. You also have OLA kids that try out for the First Nations
Oh, because all
Nationals.
the Six Nation guys are playing. Okay, yep.
We all be able to. So now we don't see each other. We don't know how each other play. So it's those are quite the tryouts. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah, pretty intense for a kid because especially like even in your NAMLA organization, when you talk about the farthest you're traveling, you're still playing the same group of kids from so what is Onondaga to Allegheny, probably the farthest trip?
yeah, yeah. This year anyway. Yeah.
Yes.
Um,
So I mean that's and now you're talking about Six Nations is way on the other side. Yeah, that's got to be very interesting for a kid growing up playing with a bunch of guys and then all of a sudden now you've got a whole different set. And there is a difference in style from like each nation has their own style, so I could imagine Six Nations being up there is a completely different style than
yeah.
every other, facility. Like Onondaga has a unique style that you pick up right away. I pick up on a Newtown kid. Like and it's weird too because you think of different yeah, like when I think of the Snow Boys, like most of them, that's what like I know Heron and Nikki and
Yeah.
yeah, it's like okay, so now they're out there and I know Big Al too. So yeah, it's you definitely start to associate different styles with different areas. And then like when Woody told me he played for what Pinewood out there, that would have
Yeah.
been under. Is that still under? How long has that parent organization been around that you were just describing, the First Nations?
The First Nations MA has been. I want to say it turned over from the Iroquois Lacrosse Association to the First Nations Lacrosse Association in 2012, I think it was. And after that, like again, this the Can-Am was its own at one point. Um, the ILA was its own. So Lacrosse Canada pretty much said, okay, we need somebody up here at this peak. You guys can still do your thing, but we need somebody to govern you guys. So that's where they came in with the FNLA, and it starts from the top. They're the top, the executive board there. They run the show with, like I said, you got the two senior leagues and you got the junior B league, and that's basically all we run.
Yeah, no, I love it. So getting to meet the junior teams. You guys used to have how many? What is the biggest the junior league has been, or is that pretty much the same? Like it looked like Seneca, the War Chiefs, kind of ran that for quite a few years, looking through the history.
From inception, the War Chiefs they ran the table for I don't know how many years,
Up until
7 years.
years, it
The
looked
last
like.
three definitely, or the last two or three definitely. The War Chiefs ran the table prior to COVID.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, that's a
they
good way
they
to put it. Prior to COVID, they
yeah,
ran.
yeah, for sure. I mean, their banners are all over the CCC. which is a good thing at the time. You know, at the time the War Chiefs they came in. Um, prior to that, I would hear people across the Confederacy mention the Ghost League, and I'm like, what the heck's the Ghost League? And here is the Junior B League, the Junior B League we had, and I believe it or not, I'll tell you what, and that's where Lyle Thompson comes from.
Yeah.
Lyle Thompson played in the Ghost League, and Lyle Thompson, we all know who he is. And it at the transition at the time is when he moved on to bigger things. But FNLA or ILA, we've always produced a junior team because, like I said, prior to 2004, Onondaga was a powerhouse junior B team in the OLA, in the Western Conference or Eastern Conference. I'm sorry, um, in which was great. You had that at that time. It was like Brett Bucktooth, Dave Stout, them guys. That whole generation of guys I remember playing against. It was, so it never left. The junior B lacrosse amongst our people never left.
It just kind of changed names.
Yeah, yeah, it just uh, changed governors. I guess you
Yeah.
want
And then now what so you guys have basically had the but Seneca War Chiefs, there was no Allegheny team, there is no Newtown junior team. So it really is that whole western side of the Confederacy basically made up the Seneca War Chiefs.
yeah, yeah. Warchies they had a lot of yeah. They when they started, they Larson Sundown came to the War Chiefs. Goa Abrams, um, just a couple of big names to throw out there like that. They came through the War Chiefs. They're from Tonawanda. As years went on, Tonawanda established their junior B team, and this year Allegheny put in their junior B team, which was it's a good sign because again, I said the numbers are coming up,
Yeah, I mean,
and
and Hot Rod got a little discouraged a couple times, but I mean, you're starting
yeah,
a team that literally you're playing against, like you said, the War Chiefs have been around for 20 years. Onondaga's Juniors has been around forever. Like, I mean, the program. So to try to start something new, even to make it through a season and to make it up to Six Nations for the Fire to play that game. Yeah, I know they didn't have great numbers, but even talking to some of the Fire guys, they were like, man, they were no joke out there though. They gave us a pretty good game.
yeah. I mean, you gotta show up to play, no matter what. I mean, I was always told that 6 guys, and that, to me that made it fun because you're playing the whole game. I mean, when we were kids, going up to Six Nations on a Tuesday night was no problem. No problem at all. Going up to Six Nations on a Tuesday night with 7 guys, no problem. That was awesome. It just made for a long day at school the next day.
Wednesday was tough. Yeah,
Yeah,
Wednesday was tough as you're trying to stay awake at the desk. But no, I
yeah,
love what the juniors program is doing. So this was the pink jersey. Randy Chrysler, he did they did a cancer night there. They raffled these off. I had a bunch of autographs. I'm hoping in 10 years that when I show up at one of these NLL games, there'll be a couple guys from this jersey that are on there, and hopefully they'll pick me out and they'll be like, hey, I remember when that knucklehead used to stream me back in the day, and get all excited. And that's honestly, NAMLA. I mean, we started with Can-Am when it comes to getting introduced to the Haudenosaunee community and the lacrosse, but then through there, oh my goodness, do we love NAMLA? When me and Charity go, it's a long day, it's tough, but boy, is it fun when you watch the little guys and just how excited they are. Now I love like some of them will look, they'll be like, "Is mom and dad watching?" And then like after they score, you always tell they turn right around and look, and we get to catch that expression
yeah,
of them looking to see if mom and dad or yeah, it's a
yeah.
blast. I love the younger guys are fun, and it's a good chance for me to run the camera sometimes because they're a little bit slower than the adults, so I can handle it. Versus yeah, I remember the last time I did the kids, and then I went to a men's game. It took me the whole first period before I was ready for that speed. I was just like, oh
Yeah.
man, I'm bad. I got to zoom way out. But so how long have you're the president of the Newtown Association, right?
Yeah.
So how long have you had that position, I guess?
Since 2019.
Oh, all right. So you got lucky to deal with COVID through through the Newtown Association. So that kind of shut down things. Did your minors shut down as well? I know Can-Am shut right down, but
Yeah, well,
or did you do like a
yeah,
community team and you guys just didn't
yeah.
travel? So like Newtown played
I,
Newtown and
Well, no, Newtown really. I mean, yeah, Newtown shut down because we were part of NAMLA. NAMLA shut down, and we're instructed to, not operate that season or those seasons. But as you know, I also run Woodsman Youth Lacrosse. In 2016, I started this, travel, off season, and COVID really hit. COVID really made me take that almost like I was ready to give up. It's a lot of work, but again, what picking up kids and driving them to New Jersey for the weekend, driving them to Philly for the weekend, it just it brings back such good memories, and I just wanted to make memories for these kids. So COVID, we didn't stop. I'll be honest. COVID shut down. I did it, and a lot of people know me, and I really didn't. I couldn't stop. Um, when COVID happened, I had a dream, and we take our dreams real serious, and it was a lacrosse game over here at the fire hall at the Sachem's Field, and in that dream we played, but there was no winner. The game didn't end, and when I woke up, I was just thinking that's telling me that the game needs to go on. So I got everybody together, and it was around strawberry time. Our strawberries were just right, and I made this game happen over at a football field, and everybody drank strawberry drink. That's what I'm drinking right now. Um,
One of my favorite parts about going to any nation is strawberry drink. I had never had that before, but yeah, I
yeah,
absolutely love it.
it's definitely good for the soul, Greg. Get yourself. I mean, I might have some left. I'll bring some on Saturday, but yeah, I mean, I made this game happen, uh, and everybody I mean, the community showed up. Everybody played with a wooden stick, and we played till it got dark. There was no winner, there was no loser. We played till people got tired, but it was all in good medicine. It was all in good fun because nobody was playing, nobody was organizing anything. Everybody was cooped up. It was middle of summer. People didn't know what was going on. So, a little bit of strawberry juice, a little bit of medicine, and a little bit of good mind, you know, kept us moving through those tough times, I guess you want to say. So, as far as Newtown, we weren't able to operate.
Through NAMLA,
So
but you guys still were getting your medicine in different ways than playing the organized youth league, traveling again to other nations, and kind of did the in-house thing. And no, I love it. There is so much more to the medicine game mindset than anybody realizes. So like I don't even play. I
I mean,
can't run.
it's a whole nother discussion, Greg.
I
The
can't even
whole medicine
describe
game.
what this game has given to me just from being able to feel useful again after ruining my hip. From being somebody who was fairly athletic to not being able to walk or run for a while, now I can walk around pretty good. I don't move up and down stairs and I can't run. So feeling kind of useless and to be able to feel useful again doing this has just been an absolute yeah, there's a lot to the medicine game that people don't necessarily give it credit for because you don't have to be out on the field to get a part of it. You just contribute, do what you can. The Onondaga story of the squirrel and the bat is really I read that and I was like, I love that story. It really was a big connection for me. If you don't know the story, I'm not going to murder the story by trying to tell it. I would suggest you ask somebody who can tell it better, or go get yourself down to the Salamanca Culture Center and pay your couple bucks and get in and check it out. It's well
Yeah.
worth it. That is an amazing facility. That is one of my favorite things to do. I check out all these culture centers. I'm a huge history guy. So like learning, I didn't know anything about the treaties until I talked to Neil, and I don't want to get too off on that because we're supposed to be talking juniors. But so talking juniors, how old is Garen? Is this he's got how many years of juniors left?
He's got 2 years. He'll be 19 this year. Well,
Uh,
he's 19 in September.
Aha, September. Everybody born in September is a little smarter. We can't help it. It just naturally occurs for all of us. But yeah, he's I love watching him. So to get to watch the from the midgets to the juniors, and when you see a kid in his first couple years of juniors. So last year I got to cover Onondaga a little bit. I didn't do very many juniors games. I only did a couple. But then to get to watch like Mason Homer playing in his first couple of games, and that Trevor Hill, and you see so many of these guys, that has got to be so cool for all of you in the community who got to watch these guys, and for them to be able to play with Uncle whoever, or guys that coached and they looked up to. I mean, literally every nation has a coaching staff somewhere on their nation that belongs in the NLL, or at least if somebody put them in the NLL, nobody's going to say they don't belong there. They might argue, the validity of it. Maybe they like this guy or that guy better. But you guys literally have legends throughout every nation in the Haudenosaunee community that coaches these kids. I mean, it's gotta be so cool for a 3-year-old to all of a sudden, and then they get a little older and they realize, oh wait, that guy that was coaching me holds that record. Wait, that was him. We've got these highlights from him, and yeah, it's. I know you've got an NLL call, so you got to get running here pretty soon. I appreciate you taking the time. So just tell me whenever you got to run, Herbie, and you're off the book. But I'll keep you as long as you got.
I got a 15 more minutes. The NLL call starts at 9. But I mean, I can, Greg, and everybody knows I'll sit here all day and talk lacrosse. I
Oh
don't
my god,
care.
it's amazing. I love how I consider, like, I don't know, I say it all the time. I feel like I'm living the dream. Like somebody's gonna pinch me one of these days and it's just gonna be over. I'm not gonna be able to just talk to all you guys about lacrosse and drive around and get to film it. It has been a absolute blast. And then so to get to watch Can-Am, you literally have guys at both ends of the spectrum. You have some guys who are maybe a little later in their career. I mean, guys are starting to come back after 5 or 6 years. Yes, Shagnosh has been playing amazing. I absolutely Keegs has been playing lights
Oh
out.
yeah. You know
That's in the
what?
comments, and yeah, I mean Keegs has been
I don't see the
wow.
comments, but I just want to throw this out there. And it's a little bit of recognition for him also, but he came out of Team Ontario last year, midgets U17. And then so him and my nephew Caius, he's also a Team Ontario goalie for this year's Canadian Nationals. They are the two only native goalies to be, or goalies, yeah, to play on Team Ontario. Team Ontario is just one of the powerhouse at Nationals. Um, just like Team Canada, so strong. Team Ontario they get 3,000 kids to pick from, and you got two native kids to make those rosters. That's really honorable and really intriguing to a lot of us. I mean, it's cool.
Yeah, that's
They,
amazing.
they chose to play for Team Ontario because of who they played for in the OLA. They could have came home and played for First Nations Nationals, but they chose not to. They went to Team O. Like Shaganash, he tried to play for First Nations, but due to um, I don't know, rules, I
Schedule or
guess.
rules or whatever. Yeah, it just didn't work out.
Yeah, yeah. So he wasn't able to represent First Nations, and he's on Ojibwe out of Walpole Island in Wallaceburg, and the kid is the kid's he's a stud,
That kid
and
is just yeah.
right behind him, Caius, he's going over to Regina this year and representing Timo. Like I said again, he's very well capable of representing First Nation, but because of who he played with this year and for the past 4 years, he's been groomed through St. Catharines. They caught his eye, and these guys, it's awesome. It's awesome to see our guys doing their thing. I
It,
just wanted to throw that out there about Keys because he said him, and I
yeah.
never really seen him. I seen him a little bit last year, but to see him this year in between the pipes, yeah, it's nice.
That is one thing that the goalies. So like Onondaga has lights out goalies, both up and down the levels. Newtown, but that's really that iron sharpens iron mentality. You get all these kids putting so much time in with their stick skills that as a goalie growing up, you have no choice but to either get good or you're just going to get lit up all the time. Because I mean, you look at like just in the senior division, you've got guys like Roscoe Bucktooth who took off, a few years and then shows back up and is still like a lights out just phenomenal. Like he could be a practice goalie or a second round goalie in the NLL, and nobody's going to be like, "Wow, he's awful. Get him." But I mean, you're really talking guys that haven't played for a while. Davy Jones, every year I talk to him, it's his final year. He's retiring. He's not sure if he's playing. And then I see him
Yeah.
with his leg pads
Oh,
on,
baby.
starting to kind of stretch and get himself, a little shimmied up. And I understand the bug though, because if I could run, I would still be out there, or at least trying to. I never had a chance to play on the box. I played a little field, but yeah, no. OCC was my first exposure to like Native American lacrosse. So I played at a high school where we had a guy that was nice enough to coach, didn't know a ton about lacrosse, taught himself a little bit and helped us out. And then I went out to Mohawk Valley, and Jeremy Thompson took the fucking opening face off against us in Onondaga and just blew by me like I wasn't even there. And I was like, what the what was that? I was like, how? And yeah, that was like, oh, hey, this is a different level. So like, I learned quickly. Okay, I didn't even know what a poke check was, and I had played lacrosse for 3 years, defense. So that's how little lacrosse knowledge I had. Paul Necker got to mold me from basically a brand new piece of clay. So it was a blast. It was as soon as I got out there and saw that though, and the braids are a dead giveaway that you're like, wait, hang on, there's something to this because every kid I see with a long braid, all of a sudden I know he's going to have stick skills that's, on a different level because he's had a stick in his hand. So, like, I feel very competent like that with a hockey stick. I played hockey from the time I was 2 years old. I haven't played in 20 years, but I guarantee you if I pick up a stick, I could still do some silly stuff with it. But it's just that years of if what you build from the time you're a young man until you're like 22, 23, that's what you are. You're built into that mold. If you decided that you were going to be a bum, well, sorry, good luck getting yourself into shape now that you're older. But no,
Yeah,
I
man.
you watch all these young guys, then get to see some of the older guys. So there's a guy I talked to from Tusky, lost 200 pounds and started playing lacrosse again, just because like they saw one of the streams. So it's
Yeah.
like, oh man, I love that. Those are my favorite stories. The medicine game is absolutely amazing. So all of the playoffs come down to Saturday. Saturday, we're going to be there all day. Starts at 10 a.m. It's going to be just me and you because of the way the filming's set up. I got some guys coming to help me with the men's game, but I didn't ask you. Are you going to stay for commentary on the men's game or are you reffing?
We'll wait and see, Greg.
It'll
I
be a
think
surprise. I
I
like it.
tried to make you guys be suspenseful that last time you asked me those questions. Yeah, I'm in those. I just don't like to put it out there sometimes what games I'm in, but of course it's the final series. Yeah, we'll be in that, and the final going to Can Am. Touch on that real quick. We were on three men officials in the final series, so there'll be three of us on the floor, and that game is going to be so smooth. I guarantee it.
I mean, you
You know,
talk.
we hear it from other players. Like we tried it a couple times this year in the seniors. Um, we've heard it of how well and they appreciated that the third official
It's
because
huge.
like yeah, the extra set of eyes out there is yeah, it's huge.
Well,
So
so I laugh. I've got the bird's eye view, but I also have the replay control, so I get to put it back. And every time you hear somebody yell at a ref, like there's two things that happen. Either the ref was you watch it, the ref was looking at something else, like looking at the toes on the crease line or looking to see if the ball crossed. Like you can see the ref's eyes, or you see it's where they're turning to run, and like nobody ever takes into account that this guy is literally out there trying to survive, basically, as the ball's whipping around. People are smashing into you and you can't even like shoulder up to protect yourself. You just got to get the heck out of the way. So I mean, I heard a guy they were bitching about some call the other day, and I watched it. And it was Laforme was the ref, and it was literally as he was like rotating his hips to go the other way, and I was like, bud. You can't expect him to catch everything. Yeah, you want to run your mouth about that, but I mean that kind of stuff happens. I love how often you guys are accurate though. Is they'll be like, watch the replay. I'm like, I am watching the replay, and you're wrong. He was correct there. You guys are very good on the crease calls, I will say. But knowing that it's a cylinder now, it makes it a little easier to understand why it's so easy for you guys to get it, at least
well,
at the younger levels.
it's a very tough call, but I'm gonna tell you guys I've another one of my personal sayings is 99.8%. I'll give you the point two.
I like it. The no, it's been a blast. So that game, let's talk about Can-Am though. So what Kebby Bomberry has been able to put together down in Allegheny. I don't know if anybody's really taken the time to appreciate what he's offered a young man like Amos Whitcomb, who very easily could be in the first round, if not one of the top picks going into next year's NLL draft. But I mean, to give him the opportunity to play with these offensive pieces, and I mean, that's everybody's gonna talk crap because that's what guys do. But I mean, you look at that defense transition and most of the Allegheny offense, it's the same guys that have been there for a few years, at least since I've been around.
Oh, for sure. I mean, they've been there. They've been there a while. And all I'm going to say on the subject, Greg, is I personally, I like to see that those Whitcomb brothers all together again because when they were in minors in NAMLA, that was, again, that's when you enjoy watching them. Now they're seniors and they've moved on and they may have families now. And I think the youngest one just got married, I do believe.
Going into his senior year into U Albany, Amos. Yeah, no, and Kean, yeah, no, they're all great. So, and
Ian,
yeah, Kean just got but Amos is the younger one. I was gonna say he's going into his
yeah,
senior year. But what you want to talk about, just a great group of young men, like always take the time to say hi to me, are just super. Yeah, no,
yeah,
so I talk to Kobe more than any of the rest of them really, just by nature of he's the one I see most of the time, and Kobe he's honestly one of the just like one of the nicest guys you'll ever get a chance to meet. And what surprised me was he's one of the few guys that he is as small as he looks, and he is strong for as small as he is. Like he does not look very big, but you see the way he floats through guys and gets under guys to hit. Like so when he's taking a hit, he's just gotten so good at the body position. And like when you watch Amos and you're like, oh my goodness, this kid has that flighty, floaty sensation of watching his brother, but he's thick. I mean, that boy's a big boy.
yeah.
It-
And it's been really good to watch Amos develop all these years, these past few years, even just watching him play junior A up in Canada. And then I really don't, honestly, if it wasn't for Garen playing college lacrosse, I really wouldn't be following college lacrosse.
I since
Even a lot of
since I
people
found
ask
out
me.
what box was, I have not watched a field game, and that's not a lie.
A lot of people ask me, like, come on, Herb, why don't you get out there and ref field? You know why? I say no. Like, absolutely not. Well, why not? I'd let them bang out, and everybody would just hate me even worse. There would be no flag. No flags at all coming from my pockets. I'm sorry.
I love it. So that is one thing, and I think that's honestly why the American kids, I mean, obviously other than the Native American kids though, but when you take a 14-year-old kid who has been mid to upper level as an attackman his whole career, and now you put him into a box where he has to be humble and accept getting his butt kicked and learn a new skill, that's not a humility most of us have at that age, especially when you've got all that. You know what it's like as a teenager. You've got a bunch of them yourself, the hormones flowing through these kids, and now you've got to humble yourself. So that's why I think it really takes a special kind of kid to start playing box later in life. And I honestly think it is the just the dedication from the elders and everybody in your communities that really it's so ingrained in these kids. You know, they learn so much from it though. Like there's just kids at the arena all the time. We've got kids helping carry stuff, and you see the maturity that comes from learning athletics and being good at it. Like learning the discipline of when to stay, when not to go, what your emotions, keeping your emotions in check. That's a hard thing for a young man to learn. And as I mean, you get to see it firsthand because you're on there, you get to hear everything, see everything. I mean, how,
Sometimes we hear too much.
yeah, but then for me as a third person though to watch like Gates Abrams this year really stop taking stupid penalties, stop putting his team in that bad position. Like that's a level of maturity that for everybody in the community that's watched him grow up and has just been waiting for that like switch to flip, that's got to be so cool for everybody there because it really has. And look at the difference it's made. Like I tell you, I think that's everybody wants to talk about all the guys that are scoring the goals for Tonawanda, but I honestly think Gates Abrams' maturity out there and the way he has conducted himself and really stepped up as a leader on that team and not taking stupid penalties. A Tonawanda game, you would know it. You'd have a couple guys taking dumb penalties at the end, and it would cost them the game. And now you don't really have. I'm not going to say you don't have any knuckleheads because we all know every team's got a couple knuckleheads. But for the most part, like Gates he's a big body who can get the defense mad and not retaliate and just taking the penalties. Wow, I think that's been a huge thing.
He's definitely a big asset out there in Tonawanda. He's got senior B credentials, President's Cup credentials. He's been there. So
Oh yeah,
when
you
you
can
talk
tell.
about maturity, definitely it's coming out. And I don't want to, just I really don't want to talk too much on these teams, but I can just encourage that this final Can-Am series will probably be one great final Can-Am series. One of the best in a long time, I think.
Yeah, I don't think I mean just look at the talent that's out there and look at every game. So they everybody that wasn't at that game and we did film it where Tonawanda played Allegheny and at Logan Field. Tonawanda was in that game right up
Yeah.
until the end of it. I mean that so I'm telling you watching that game, every one of these games, there's not a team in the Can-Am I think that can't beat them. Like even when you look at the Newtown games, they weren't that far apart. Like 6 goals, is something that can be made up in 6 minutes with the level of talent that each of these offensive has. So I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
they had the couple of blowouts, but like you look at the first game, it was only like a 3 goal game. Second game did not go well at all. Third game much closer again, and just the way you see it, like every team here, I would feel confident that in a 7 game, if you made them play 7 games, there's not a Can-Am team that couldn't beat any other team at least once.
No, for sure. Can-Am's is, it's always been strong. And, I
It's
think
my
the
favorite league to
competitive
watch.
level.
It's the
Yeah.
there's a certain pride and community that comes from it, and it's not the community so much of the guys that grew up together, because there is that, but you really see the maturity of the way they take in. Like I watched Donnie Nephew's playing. Where did he end up going now? Was he at Town? I don't even remember. But watching some of these guys that changed teams, and now they're like in hook, line, and sinker with these new programs. Like it's
Yeah.
just the way guys are. It's part of the community. Well, like watching Garen and his teammates stick up for each other the way they are in Junior B. That's something that you don't get in pro sports, and that's why I think the emotional pride is what makes Can-Am the best summer league. And I know I'm going to draw some haters on this because I run a lot of NABLL stuff, and I do love all you guys, but yeah, no, your league is not even close to what the Can-Am Summer League is, and I hope
NHL was pretty interesting. I enjoyed
it's
with helping that league out this year. It
it's
was it
fun.
was cool. They got something good going on.
They have
But
great things going on as long as they continue to grow. But I'm sure you got to run because now we're past your
yeah, I
time.
got to get on the next call. My first NLL call for the season, so pretty excited. We got the NCBS coming up next week in Utica, so that's what the call is about.
That's awesome. Well, thanks so much, Herbie. I really appreciate you taking the time. I mean, it's been a blast, and thanks for being an amazing ambassador of the medicine game and the sport of box lacrosse. I appreciate you guys always taking the time to help and really explain things to me.
Yeah, yeah. You just ask. Our arms are always wide open. I told you that.
All
But
right.
yeah, I'll see you on Saturday, Greg.
See you Saturday, buddy.
All right. Thanks.